A very good morning to one and all present here. A warm welcome from Om Sterling Global University, Hisar. We are now moving on to the first formal session of Faculty Development Program. I, Dr. Mukesh Yadav, the convener of Faculty Development Program, along with my co-convener Dr. Tanu Kukreja, on behalf of Om Sterling Global University, welcome you all for your gracious presence and participation in Faculty Development Program. The theme for the first day of Faculty Development Program is Personal and Professional Development. And the resource person for this session is Colonel Anil Gulati, visiting faculty, Amity School of Liberal Arts, Amity University, Gurugram. Before I hand over the stage to our eminent speaker for today, I would like to take this privilege to introduce you mm, to all of you. Colonel Anil Gulati is an Army veteran with 14 years of experience in teaching and training. He is an associate professor and head of communication skills at Amity University, Haryana. He is an expert in corporate training uh, on 7 habits of highly effective people, and this is also the topic for today's session. His research areas include communication, etiquette training, and behavioral communication. He is a passionate trainer and he has trained over 10,000 students and working professionals. He has got 5 years of experience with Mahale filters. He is an avid reader and a public speaker. He has conducted several events and has coordinated many of them. He is also the motivational speaker for students of Amity University. His expertise lies in areas like group discussion, resume writing, and interpersonal skills. Sir, it is really an honor to have you here on this platform and to present this faculty development program. I think you are the most suitable person to deal with this topic. Welcome, sir. We wholeheartedly welcome you, and over to you, Colonel Anil Gulati. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Team FDP, for inviting me here. And a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, arguably the best book ever written on personal and interpersonal effectiveness. A book that has changed rather than transformed millions of lives. Can it change yours? I have no reason to think otherwise. Let's get started. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There are two keywords: habits and effective. Habits is simple. Something we repeatedly do becomes our habit. Habits can be learned, habits can be unlearned, requires a bit of time and effort, and of course, commitment. Effectiveness is not all that simple. When I took this session way back in 2008 with Amity Business School, we were affiliated with MDU Rohtak at that point of time. I decided to play a game with those students. Very simple game. I said, close your eyes, pick up a ladder, run 100 meters, there's a wall, climb, go on top, get a diamond. The problem was there was one diamond and 60 students, so competition was very tough. After 1 minute, one student raised hands. I invited him to the board. He said, sir, I was totally focused on running And then he drew this ladder on the board. And he said, look at this also. You find some steps very close to each other. I took a double jump there. So I deserve a diamond. Now, I have question to ask. In fact, I'll be asking a lot of questions and answering all of them. But between question and an answer, I'll give a pause for 20 seconds, 10 seconds rather, so that you can carry out an internal dialogue. And in case you're sitting in a group, that will be even more interesting. My question number one is, the student, Sandeep Malawat, was he efficient? I don't think this requires any discussion. He was super efficient. He ran so fast, focused, climbed the ladder, and entire output input ratio. I think he deserves to be called efficient. Question number two, was he effective? Going by my past experience, the present participants also must be in a dilemma. Yes, no. My answer would be, we do not know. Sandeep Palawat has reached on top. Has he got diamond? We don't know. Diamond is what effectiveness is all about. Now let's take the story forward. When he reached on top, he realized that ladder which he had climbed was leaning against the wrong wall. Now this metaphor we very often use in corporate, wherein we find there's a kind of rat race, mad rush to climb the ladder. Manager, deputy general manager, and reach on top. And then you realize this is not you bargained for, because your family relation, upbringing of your children, everything's there. Ambition is good, absolutely. Ambition is very good. But once you have that ambition, don't lose sight of what values most to you. During last 2 years, you would have realized we have recalibrated our priorities to an extent that money, fame, achievement look quite secondary vis-a-vis our relationships, our health, and other societal roles. So that is the first condition for effectiveness. The outcome, the results, the goals, the objectives. Condition number two. Let's have a story first. You all heard of this Aesop's fable, wherein on a particular day that farmer finds that one goose has laid golden egg. He's excited every day because he's getting a golden egg. His life becomes very, very comfortable until the greed overtakes him, overpowers him. And that day he decides, why not kill the goose, get all the eggs, become super rich? And rest is the history. He neither had eggs nor the golden goose. P stands for eggs production. PC is production capacity of the capabilities. That is your goose. And this we apply in every day. My personal life, my professional life. When I was with Mahale Filters, erstwhile Purolata, possibly one of the finest places to work, going by the culture they have, especially in terms of employee engagement. 6 days we used to produce filters. Even your car would have one of ours. 7th day, there was maintenance of machines. Could we produce on 7th day? Yes. 8 day, 9 day, 10 days possibly. 11th day, you'll have neither the goose nor the golden egg because machines would have backup. So there are two conditions. You need to balance the two. Sorry, there's some wrong. Something's going wrong. My apologies. My laptop wasn't working well, so I've got this laptop yesterday, not too familiar with. Now we come to an overview. I think that'll be a good starting point. Seven habits. Be proactive. Be proactive is slightly more than initiative. Be proactive says, I'm responsible. Responsibility itself, ability to respond. That means what decides is not the circumstances, but my response to those circumstances. Habit two, we already seen the diamond, and putting first thing first is the execution part. To use the computer terminology, be proactive is I'm the programmer. Begin with end in mind is I write the program. First thing first is I run that program. Another terminology could be I'm the creator. Mental creation is habit two. Physical creation is habit three. We'll be using these terms at various places. Now, once I have started living these three habits, I have achieved a kind of private victory, personal effectiveness. Like they say, the starting point is man jeete jag jeet. Thereafter, you move to the jag because man has been conquered. Then you come to win-win. That is a mutually beneficial solution. Seek first to understand. Most of the time, we are trying to impose our own autobiography on others without listening, understanding. Synergy, the sum is greater than individual parts. So these are the six habits. Habit number 4, 5, and 6 is a kind of you are equipped now to deal effectively with others. And everything is surrounded by sharpen the saw. That means continuous renewal helps you to proceed with all these six habits. You would also find three terms dependence. Once we are born, we are dependent on even the basic requirements like milk and changing nappies. As we grow up, I can do it. And once we become independent, we say, no, it's an interconnected world, interdependent world. And that is how we enter independence. In terms of maturity continuum, dependence is a paradigm. Paradigm is a frame of reference, a model. You take care of me. Something goes wrong, I blame you. Some people never grow out of this paradigm. Independence is I, interdependence is we. Right. Now we start with habit one, that is be proactive. Very often I call my students to the podium, especially those who love bikes, like I did my bullet once upon a time as a captain. I paint a situation. I said, you're driving, somebody overtakes you very rashly, is almost bang into you, and you find at the next red light, the same person is parked next to you. How would you react or respond? And kind of responses I get, there's a myriad responses. One says, I'll ignore. One says, I'll glare at him, give him a dirty look. Some says, I'll abuse. And the best answer I got was in the staff, when I was conducting the same session with the staff of Amity. He said, sir, if that person मेरे से हल्का हुआ तो मैं उसको दबोच लूंगा. I said, suppose that person brings out a pistol, and it's not a hypothetical question. We'll analyze all these responses. Let's hear another story, or rather, let's have a coffee. Oh, we can't have one because coffee spill has taken place. Husband, wife, and their 10 years old daughter on a breakfast table. Husband and wife both working. Now, husband is almost finished breakfast. The wife from the kitchen gets a cup of coffee for that person, places on table. Girl is excited because it's a fancy dress competition today in the school, and she extends hand and The coffee spill takes place on the shirt of that gentleman. Story ends. Now, this is not a video. I can't edit it. I can't update it. Story remains the same. A coffee spill has taken place. What can be changed is the response of that person. First, I'll share with you what was actual response of that person. Don't call it response actually, the reaction of that person. And second, how he could have responded. Moment that coffee spill took place, he shouted at his daughter, "You don't know the basic table manners. We put you in the best possible school. I think it was waste of time." Then he turns to the wife. "You also, I don't know why you have to place that cup on the edge of the table." Fuming, he goes to bedroom, changes his shirt, comes back, and he finds the daughter is still crying. Missed the school bus. Now that person has no choice but to drop his daughter to the school. So he's to overspeed. As he's overspeeding, the cop, 2000 challan. Reaches office, he finds he's forgotten to bring his briefcase. The entire day was quite suboptimal. Quite tired, he comes back home in the evening, gets a very, very cold reception. No huggy shuggy. Day was miserable. My question to you is, who is responsible for this? Four choices. The daughter, the wife, coffee, or the cop? Well, I think it's none of the above. Only person responsible is the person himself, or to be precise, his responses. Now let's take what response he could possibly go into. Simple, take a deep breath. 5 seconds. In 5 seconds, rest assured, daughter would have said sorry. Daughters are so sweet. I mean, no offense meant to boys. She would have said sorry, Papa. And you say, okay, don't be careful next time, and don't be late for your school. Go back, bedroom, change shirt and tie, come back, everything is normal. Sure. And let me tell you, this person loved his daughter as much as you and I do. But where he faltered was he failed to subordinate his impulses to the higher values. Higher values is bonding with the daughter. And that he possibly ignored. For that moment, he could not suppress his impulses. This is the proactive model, right? There's a stimulus, somebody overtakes you from the wrong side, or a coffee spill takes place. Response, there's a freedom to choose. Now, this term was firstly, or rather made more popular by Viktor Frankl, that Holocaust survivor. He's written a book also, Man's Search for Meaning. But that's a different story altogether. Now, why we can choose, the animals cannot. We are self-aware. Right now, I know my mood, I know my motivations, and I have imagination. And I have imagination. I can visualize the consequences. As I said, there's a stimulus, you can respond in a particular way. You cannot control the consequences. So I know the consequences, I respond accordingly. Conscious, I got that inner voice which tells me what is right or wrong. And I got independent will, I can choose to. Now, how do you know you are a proactive person or you also react? Now, there are a lot of things of my concern. My growth, well-being of my family, happiness, interview preparation of my students, their personality development, weather. I love this Valentine Day kind of weather. Then the roads in Gurugram, all of my concern. So I write these things and put a circle around, that becomes my circle of concern. I said roads in Gurugram, are in my circle of concern. Roads in Islamabad or Lahore, I got no concern. Then I realize, can I change the weather? I can possibly make a difference to climate change in my humble capacity. Similarly for the roads, so what I do, I draw another circle. Where I can do something, I focus my energy, I call it circle of influence. So I must operate as a proactive person in that circle of influence. And if I focus my energy there, be away from negative energy, I can expand my circle of influence. I'll give you a live example. Roads in Gurgaon are generally in a bad shape. So one day I rang up a municipal corporation official, councillor actually, and that there's a problem with the roads, and within 2 weeks I found the roads had been repaired. Of course, the elections were to come next month, but the important part here is that I can focus my energy or circle of influence, and that enlarges my circle of influence actually. But what do we do most of the time? Such and such person is not doing anything. Government is like this. So instead of focusing our energy on where we can do something, we can enlarge our circle of influence. Even the language you can find out from the language itself, whether you're proactive. Example there. A lot of people say, I have to do that. I think you have a choice in most of the situation. Sure, the language also reflects whether you're a proactive person or you're a reactive person. Inside out. Now, if you go by the book, and this is the book we are now speaking about, this first two words, Stephen Covey is the author. The inside outside out is being covered up front. Most of the time we say, if only my spouse could be a little more patient, my kid could have a little more discipline, like I was disciplined when I was of his or her age. My boss, well, he's such a dictator. If he could change or the systems could improve, then everything would be all right. That means the world must change before I even attempt to change. Anytime we think problem is there, I think that itself is the problem. Take example of Akshay. I hope I'm allowed to use this name. And the choice I had was to use Anil. Now, Anil, I think, is the most beautiful sound in the world. But then using own name, and also come to think of it, uh, I'm so happy in my present assignment. This narrative doesn't fit in. So let's proceed with Akshay. Akshay cannot leave the job. He's not happy, but he can't leave the job. He's got a family to support. He's recently married. He's booked a house. He needs to pay EMI. And job market in any case is so terrible. Frustrated, trapped. What does Akshay do actually then? Family to support? I shouldn't have married so early, but my grandfather pressurized. So Akshay is a victim of emotional blackmail of his Dadaji. Move to EMI. I told my wife, let's go in for a smaller house. She insisted. So my wife is to be blamed. Job market is terrible. And look at this recent budget. Not a word mention about employment generation. I blame the government. I blame the education system. I blame everyone else. Inside out means first start with the self, your inner core, without waiting for others to change first. If we take responsibility, people are getting job. Take example, we read in the paper 2 weeks back. The college in Mumbai, named after late Shri Rahul Bajaj, whom we lost a couple of days back. They invited 147 companies to the campus, and 58 of them had to be sent back. They had to write an apology letter. Sorry, all students placed. People are getting job. Have you even looked for one? Try and make it more interesting. And time to learn new skills. Things change so very fast these days. You have to upgrade yourself all the time. Take bullet 3. Have you considered making more interesting? I think as teachers, we are blessed. Our job is so interesting and engaging. But you want to make it a little more interesting? My recommendation is very simple. Join one of these clubs, societies, where your students are there. At Amity, we encourage holistic development of the students. I'm sure an esteemed university like yours also prioritize holistic development of students. And I'm proud to be your partner, at least for today. At Amity, we have a lot of clubs. Music clubs, writing clubs, poetry club, dramatics, social service club, and my own favorite, debating society, what we call Hunkar. Now, meeting your student beyond classroom is very, very interesting in my opinion. I used to run for Amity Marathon primarily for this reason, that running with your own students is such a fun. So you can make it very interesting. There are a lot of options available. We've discussed inside and outside mantras. Want happy marriage? Positive energy. Teenager, be understanding. We'll cover this particular point in a short while in habit 5. Now, number 5, last bullet, rather fourth one, we can cover now. Somebody used the word, my boss is a dictator. He just doesn't listen. My point is, what have you done about it? Let me tell you, the bosses are more pressurized than you and I at junior level are. Now, boss has got a presentation tomorrow. Offer to stay late, help in making a presentation. Young generation is much better in technology and PPTs. Or there are other avenues also. Let's take the same program, same FDP was to be conducted in physical mode. I look forward to one actually. Now, you're a local, you say, well, I'll receive guests and this is the accommodation, I can help out. So many things can be done, but be more responsible and a contributing employee. And in mind is physical creation. Now, like we saw in case of Sandeep Alavat use the word, I was totally focused on running. Well, if end is a diamond, focus on the diamond. Running fast, using that smart technique of climbing ladder improves your efficiency. It doesn't take you to the spot where diamond is lying. The diamonds are the high priority thing. Right. So this habit primarily says, start with a clear understanding of your destination. Mental creation precedes physical creation, like we saw in the overview slide. That habit number 2 is mental creation. Habit 3 is a physical creation. Even when we apply to leadership and management, in fact, half chapter is devoted in this book on this. The leadership comes first and then comes management. And the method to do is writing a mission statement. We all attend lots of meetings, and many times we feel it could have been more fruitful provided a clear agenda, who is to attend, and what we are supposed to be prepared with. So, all this mental creation, had it proceeded, then the physical creation would have been more impressive. So, personal mission statement will not be going through the mechanics of writing a statement. I would have loved to, but that requires a separate session or maybe two sessions to write a statement. Notwithstanding, uh, let me come to this. Call it mission statement, call it objectives, call it goal. First day of my session, let's take the 4 semester PGs and 6 semester UG. Day one, every student on the first page writes this to be interview ready by this for the PG, obviously the course passing out next year, December 31, 2023. Why this mission? It gives a direction. Most of the time, the students are worried about their marks, examination, getting 1 mark more than the other person, and they do not perform certain tasks or do certain duties which help them in interview preparation. Like reading newspaper is the one thing we need to encourage, but only once they know what interview readiness means. So this is the statement I give them. For MBA, I make a slight modification. I say to be corporate ready by December 31. And then I add two more topics. One is attire and grooming. The other is manners and etiquette. But basic premise remains the same, that you have to have the destination in mind. Habit 3. Things which matter most must never be left at mercy of things which matter least. In fact, there's a separate book, Put First Things First, which deals in great details about time management. In fact, I don't like this word time management. You all got the same 24 hours. It's managing yourself. So I use, let's see what's wrong with the present generation, 3 generations of time management. Lots of people are very fond of making checklist. Nothing wrong with that. You don't forget anything. But is that list based on your priorities or something that leads you somewhere? We don't know. The calendars are slight improvement, appointment pads. At least we show up at the right place. But again, no link to the priorities. Third one is, I think, decent. We are presently on with the third generation. A lot of technology, buzz, buzz, buzz. Our mobile keeps doing it. Laptop also reminds us of various things. But again, the emphasis is not on priority. Emphasis on prioritizing your schedule. That means the schedule is made first, and then you prioritize. The right thing would be you schedule your priorities. Time management, new paradigm. I said this is I would say I bought peace by retaining the term time management, but I added new paradigm, new model, new frame of reference. When I hear time, I don't look at my watch. I look at the compass, which direction I must take. And then clock comes in. It's a fourth generation. Two main features are we plan for the week, and then based on the quadrant, there are 4 quadrants we'll be discussing. Quadrant 2 is the one which needs to be paid attention to. Look at figure, which is the second one. I have many roles in life. I'm an individual, I must take care of myself. I'm a husband. I'm father to two loving daughters. I'm also editor of a magazine. And a very important role is I take care of interview preparation of my students. I'm a teacher, trainer. In each of these roles, For a week, I identify important goals, I make plans, then I got two options. I schedule, which you'll be seeing shortly from now, or I delegate. But once you delegate, there are two types of delegation discussed in the book. Very often we delegate and then sit over the head of that person to whom the task has been delegated. The HR people will tell you that delegate, tell them what is to be done, but don't tell them how to do that. Leave it to them. That is called stewardship delegation. The problem with any prioritization is most of the time we focus on urgency, something right in front of us. But it's the importance that contributes to your mission, values, and high priority goals. That is what we need to focus on. So there are four quadrants. Please take a look. A fire takes place, is both urgent and important. A telephone call, I don't know, but it's still urgent because a telephone is ringing. Deadline, a lot of people are fond of this term deadline. We'll see why the deadline, in fact, we had to reach at that stage. Two is important, not urgent. For example, today in the new semester, are examinations urgent? The answer is no. Examination, are they important? The answer is yes. The problem comes, today they are not urgent, but unless we realize the importance and work towards it, then they'll also become urgent, important in any case they are. Three, some meetings, some popular activities, some phone call. So I would recommend let's stay north of the center line and stay on one and two quadrants. We spoke of fire. Have we taken preventive measures? Then possibly the fire will not take place, or even if it takes place, we can respond to them. The preparation for anything. Relationship building. Many times, these marketing people would tell us that suddenly the sales come down, and then we rush some promotional material, some scheme, some sale we announce, we go hyper on advertising and whatnot. If well in advance we have built good relationship with our distributors, wholesalers, we'll get timely feedback and we can plan much better. True recreation, incidentally, is again very, very important. In the West, they take their holidays so seriously, like their work. Empower people, then possibly you need not attend to the things which possibly you're not required to. That leaves you with more time. So, quadrant two is where we should focus. It's a quadrant of quality, long term. Third point we already covered. Time spent in Q2 shrinks quarter one. You build good relationship with your distributors. One situation possibly you'll never arrive at. I'm fortunate to see a video of Dr. Stephen Covey, the author of this book, explaining this particular point. And how did he go about it? You can see on top is the boulders, below pebbles, right side is sand, and of course there's a bucket. Requirement is what we should fit there. So a lot of students possibly said sand first, then etc. The author started with filling the bucket with boulders, and the bucket was full. So he asked the students, can we put anything else? Everybody said no. Then he took the pebbles. Pebbles found their own way. and still there. And then he asked, "Can we fit the sand?" This time the students were smarter. They said, "Yes, sir. Sand will also fit in." Then he said, "If everything fits in, what are the lessons out of this experiment?" They said, "Unless you put the boulders first, other items will not go." No, that is not the lesson. The lesson is, unless you put the boulders first, boulders will not fit in. Now, what are the boulders? Your high priority goals, your objectives, something that leads to your mission, your values. Those are the boulders. Before cluttering your mind or anything else, identify your boulders and focus on boulders. So plan weekly has got advantage because if you take point number 3, for example, task and activities is not what we are aiming for, direction we are aiming for. We saw in the diamond experiment, diamond game, efficiency, he was super efficient, but he was not effective because he not planned for the diamond, his total focus on how to achieve that. And this is 5-step approach, very simple. Now here we will spend some time. Your vision, your mission, then identify roles. In each role, identify some goals. You don't have to have goals in every role. It all depends on that particular week you are anticipating. And then you create a decision-making framework and then make sure you implement them. Right. Then I was quite inclined towards corporate training, though I had joined Amity by then. I identified my roles, individual. I didn't know how to make a PPT then. But PPT became important as I got into this new job. So I had two choices, whom to learn from. We didn't have this Wikipedia, Google, and YouTube that time. I had two choices, my daughter or my student oblique colleague. It was daughter, it had to be weekend. It was a student or a fellow faculty member, then it had to be the spare period for both of us. Family, uh, true recreation is important. We used to watch a lot of movies in theater once things were normal. HR. Now, my primary role was environment, health, and safety. That is certification, ISO certification for OSAS 18001 and environment 14001. But the HR for ex-servicemen, the Mahale filters, in fact, Anand Automotive Systems, the umbrella organization, decided that each team of 6-7 operating engineer should have an ex-serviceman. The reason was they felt the team will have better discipline. So I tied up with the local Senate board, got the CV of ex-servicemen, interviewed them, and then recruit them. EHS training supervisor, CMP. Now, I've taken this presentation with NCR Chamber of Commerce in 2006 and thereafter with CMP. CMP is Confederation of Management Professionals. 50-60 of HR managers joined together and we made CMP. And Prava was the magazine, in-house magazine, and I was chosen as editor of that magazine. I used to contribute a lot of articles those days in all local industrial magazines and all. Though I discovered then writing articles is simple, motivating others to write is slightly more challenging. So, based on those parameters, I converted into a weekly chart, Monday to Sunday, 7 days. Timings my choice when I start, and I fit in. You'll find that once you start doing, there are so many vacant slots available. And by including your different roles, automatically use work life balance. Some of you are lucky that parents are staying with you. If they are unwell, I'm sure you rush them to hospital. But many of us do not plan their advanced routine checkups. Here is the method wherein you can advance planning and book a slot for such an important task. Right. We all are now independent. Yeah. We have achieved private victory. Yes. Can we move on next to the real world? The outside world? Not the real world. Real world is inside. The outside world. Yes. Let's move on. A very interesting term, EBA. I love this. What happens in a bank that we all deposit money or somebody deposits for us in terms of salary? And then anytime we feel like we can withdraw that money to the extent our balance permits. Emotional bank account is the same thing, wherein we invest in other people, develop relationship, develop trust. EBA symbolizes the trust between people. How do we make deposits in this account? Understanding somebody is not there, we keep notes for that person. Commitments is very, very important. Personal integrity, apologizing sincerely. These two I'll explain in more detail. Personal integrity. Many time when we sit in a group, even the staff room, unfortunately, we find five people are gossiping, talking about whom? Somebody is not present there. And rest assured, when you're not there, those five people would be talking about you. One may not be able to stop the gossip all the time, but surely you can de-associate from that thing and show your personal integrity that let's not talk ill of any person who's not there to defend himself or herself. That is what this principle says. Apologizing sincerely, many times it's qualified. If you are hurt, then I apologize. Politicians keep saying this all the time. Win-win. Right. Now there are various paradigms, the framework of reference, the models. Win-win, mutual benefit, win, I win, lose, I lose, 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 both lose, and so on. Many times when I ask, which is the best paradigm? There's a universal chorus, win-win. My next clue is, how about a cricket match between India and Pakistan? And then say, win, lose. So the answer is, it depends. You're right. 90% of the chances it's going to be win-win. But many time in a competitive scenario, as long as it's not cutthroat competition kind of scenario, a healthy competition is always good. Lose-win. I lose, you win. As a doormat mentality, not very good. But many time when we're playing with children, don't we lose the games? Or dealing with a supplier who's in some problem, we don't mind losing in the context of the long-term relationship. So we lose. Lose, of course, is this revenge killings kind of thing. When I want to win, safety of the child is involved. Nothing else in the world matters to me. And many a time, as a mature people, we may have to say either we arrive at an agreement, otherwise no deal. This approach can also work in the short term. This is how we achieve win-win. Third alternative we'll discuss in little more detail. But the most important point here is The abundance mentality. That means there's plenty for everybody. All the time we think if that person gets, I lose. That's not the case. Now I've got two stories to share here. A person whose eyesight is becoming a little weaker, he goes to an optometrist. What does he do? What does he do? He says, here are my glasses, put them on. I've been using for many years. I got another pair at home. So the person puts glasses, things become even worse. He says, no, no, have positive attitude. What's wrong with you? Would you ever go to that optometrist again? Answer is no. Well, that story given in the book, but it's just to convey a point, I think. But the second story, which I've customized to Indian conditions, I think you can easily relate with. A boy studying in 12th standard comes home, joins his parents on the dining table, and says, I want to become a mechanic. I want to become a mechanic. 6 words. What do parents do? Father, you want to be shocked actually. You want to become a mechanic? I thought you'll become an engineer. हमारी तो नाक कट जाएगी. I mean, I can't show my face to the entire community. And look at your cousin, chacha ka beta, taya ka beta, where they've reached, and you want to become a mechanic? 4 minutes, moral lecture. Now mother takes on. Beta, you don't know how we saved money. Your father used to go in a local bus so that he could save pennies for your education, and you want to become a mechanic now? 6 words in 5 seconds spoken by that boy, and 7 minutes moral lecture. Seek first to understand. You never tried to find out why that person wants to become a mechanic. If he's not doing particularly well in some subjects, arrange a tuition for them. Change the stream. Or something else in his mind. First listen to that person. And in this particular case, as it turns out, he wants to become an automobile engineer. But then he's learned from somewhere that working and getting hands-on experience before you get to do automobile engineer is much better. And this is a very normal trend abroad. So seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is the type of listening actually we teach even as part of communication skills in our workshop. And I come to the last. Ignoring is, of course, you just don't listen. Pretend is you pretend you're listening. Selective where it matters to you. Attentive, you pay all the attention to the words being spoken. Active is you keep responding, paraphrasing, nodding. That means you become part of the communication itself. And the most important is empathetic listening. From the viewpoint of others, listen with your ears, with your mind, with your heart, perspective of others. That is empathetic listening. Do we listen? No, I think most of the time we are waiting for our turn to speak. One person comes to this author and says, and you may like to write the sentence like I have done here. I don't understand my son. He just doesn't listen to me. I don't understand my son. He doesn't listen to me. Now, Mr. Covey ensured the same thing he repeated 5 times. Person got irritated. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand my son. He doesn't listen to me. And then author came out. I thought to understand another person, you had to listen. So please listen. Most of the time, we present our own autobiography when we were of your age, when this was there, and things of that sort, right? Seek first to understand. The last bullet is important. Putting oneself in the perspective of other person. both for feeling and meaning, right? There are certain things which are unsaid. And of course, body language is again very, very important. Synergize. Whole is greater than sum of its parts. That's a little meaning. Now, couple and dilemma. There's a case study well before the pandemic. I happened to go to a mall, a very famous mall in South Delhi. They conducted a training program for their deputy managers and above. I love that place in one way that, in the basement parking of a mall, they'd created an island of training, where there's a will, there's a way. It was a glass, covered by glass, enough to accommodate 20-25 students, and totally soundproof. One didn't know inside that you are at the basement of a mall, right? So I circulated this case study 3 days before my session. Western setting, a couple plans 1 week vacation for their two sons, 10 and 12 years old, primarily focused at fishing. Other activities were there, but primarily at fishing. And they take their vacation very seriously. They arranged a training program for their children in fishing. Then what happens? 1 week before the vacations, mother of that wife was slightly unwell. They got this news. What do? And then the discussion starts. Husband says, I think we can go to your mother after 3 months. In any case, we plan another vacation. She said, but I won't know if my mother is there around for that time. Then he says, no, but your sister is there to take care of, and something happens, we'll go there. And you can think of the consequences that can take place. Such an argument can lead to a lot of withdrawal from emotional bank account, which we spoke a short while ago. And if something happens, God forbid, to her mother, you can lifelong scars, very, very difficult situation. What would happen in Indian circumstances would be, I can visualize most of the cases would be compromise. Husband goes for fishing, takes the sons there, and wife goes to mother. But what is the fun? You think those boys are enjoying their fishing without their mother? Unless they show, see, mom, what a fish I caught. The thrill. Just like a boy or a girl receiving prize in a school in the annual function, and mother or father not there to applaud. Compromise at the best is 1 plus 1 is equal to 1.5. But synergy can be 1 plus 1 plus equal to 311,000. So what does this couple do finally? They start communicating. And they say, all right, can we do this? Can we do this? And beauty of synergetic communication is that irrespective of decision you take, your relationship improves, your love for each other improves. And in this particular case, they decided, let's change the camping site, which is closer to where mother stays. And in between their fishing, they can even visit their grandma, and the cousins from there can come this side. What a solution! Something which could have been totally disastrous, but synergetic communication is one where the third alternative was sought for, and what a difference it made. Mutual trust, understanding, good emotional bank account. Teamwork. Teamwork, some of us have studied that in HR, Belbin rules, for example. Everybody is not same, and if two persons have got the same opinion, then one is wasted. So enjoy and complement each other and look towards strength of each other. As in HR, we say, no two persons are alike. Value differences. We come to the last habit, sharpen the saw. As I mentioned earlier, all six habits are sort of enclosed in this particular circle. Without sharpening the saw, none of these habits can actually work. We all heard of the story of carpenter and uh, somebody uh, sawing the wood in the jungle. He said, I don't have time. I think we don't have time not to sharpen our saw. And sharpen the saw in these four dimensions. You have to have a balanced thing. You can't say that I exercise so much my brain will improve. No, or the other way around. So physical, mental, social, spiritual. All these dimensions one has to work. Physical, the health and exercise, the mental is reading, writing, social is empathy, spiritual, of course, is self-regulatory. In fact, a lot of people from from who are in the spiritual field, very often, refer to these habits. Now, this is my last slide of this presentation. In the opening statement, I said that this book has the potential to transform your lives. Right? Might have appeared tall statements to some of the participants. No. Only thing is, one has to invest. And there's a separate book called Living Seven Habits, but what I have written is adequate to understand. It's a 7 week process, one habit per week you actually practice. You plan weekly, live that habit, live that habit physically, and teach to learn. We all are teachers. We know what we learned in PGs was nothing comparative to what we learned while teaching, while being the students. Every day interacting with the students is a learning process. Teach to learn. Now we just take two habits and wind up. Habit one, be proactive. See yourself how you handle the traffic jam. An irritated customer came to you and how you handled that. A difficult child came, how you handle that. And I'm not against scolding by any chance. One can scold the children, one can scold your subordinates who are not working, but you respond and don't react. Respond for the welfare of the overall relationship. Traffic jam, for example, is a good example, especially in case you're doing a carpool. Ask your colleagues to participate in the same activity and give you a genuine feedback. How did you respond? Habit one. Otherwise, carry out modification. Habit two is simple. I think the best thing to do would be write a mission statement. In case you have one, already written one, then you can refine it. Should you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. This just summarizes the seven habits. So I keep it in front of me before you have anything. All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think we we are moving on at the end of this session, so we are not in a position to take any questions from the audience because we have the next session lined up just after your session. So we would be
Right.
ending this session now. And it was really a pleasure to listen to your presentation. And as Stephen Covey has himself written, that the challenge is not to manage time, but to manage ourselves. And you have really taught us how to manage ourselves. And we wholeheartedly thank you for your precious words of wisdom. Your thoughts have really enlightened us, and your deep and intellectual way of imparting knowledge has added to the glory of this event. your your information has it has truly helped us, will help us in our life. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for being with us. Uh, and we have our Pro Vice Chancellor, sir, Dr. Podar, sir, Dr. Ajay Podar, sir, also. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for being with us throughout the session. Thank you. Thank you,
Good
one and all.
afternoon, Dr. Sharp. Good afternoon. What a pleasure seeing you. I couldn't see my audience, but now I feel very happy that I'm sitting in front of such a senior person from this esteemed university. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
I
Thank
couldn't
you so
see
much.
the bulk of my audience, but I salute each one of them. And Jai Hind. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.